Hey everyone, Mythicodian. For those that are new to the channel, welcome. I've been playing Dungeons & Dragons and other tabletop RPGs since 1984, so yeah, a pretty long time.
You're so old though.
In this video, I'll be chatting a bit more about whether Homebrew campaign is better than a pre-made adventure. There is no right or wrong answer here. What the difference will be is how much time you have available to create your world and make it come to life.
It's not no time.
So in a pre-made adventure, whether it's an official one from companies like Wizards of the Coast or Paizo, or one you grabbed from an online source such as DriveThruRPG, it should have all you need to slap it into an existing game world such as the Forgotten Realms from Wizards of the Coast or Galarian, the Pathfinder world. This gives you lots of already made locations, NPCs, and more. It's quick to set up and drop your group into. They can read some background before the game on the world, or more specifically, the city or area they'll be starting their adventure in. Now, some pre-made adventures need a lot of work. Looking at you, Dungeon of the Mad Mage and Light of Xeris, and some are very well written that do not need as much. The Waterdeep Heist I found very intuitive to run, and the Kingmaker Adventure Path or Abomination Vaults from Paizo are extremely well written. Now, some of the better 5e adventures are the Waterdeep Heist, which I've ran a few times. So much fun and good for new players to jump right into the action. The Lost Mines of Fendelver, which is the adventure in the Essentials kit as a good starting module for new players. The Ghost Assault March, which is good for players with a little bit of experience and those who really enjoy seafaring adventures. Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frost Maiden, whose prison is featured in the D&D Honor Among Thieves movie, and anyone who's a fan of the Crystal Shard series from R.A. Salvatore. Finally, the Curse of Strahd, which I have run, and this is a great mod for very seasoned players. It has some very dark content, so be warned. My table was notorious for having PCs being rolled up constantly, as this adventure really can kill players, and fairly quickly.
I'm not dead.
And now for some great Paizo adventures to get into. The beginner box has the Trouble in Atari that can lead into the Abomination Vaults, which is a direct jump off point from the beginner box. It runs players from 1st to 10th level. Agents of Edgewatch is like having a cop drama in Absalom, the main city in Galarian, but this one is a little more political leaning, so it's not everyone's cup of tea. It was our group's number 2 choice when we're figuring out which adventure path to stream. So we are running the Kingmaker adventure path on our stream. So this is a very complex mod, but it is very sandbox, as in the players really can explore what and when they want. Should they? Well, time will tell.
Why the hell would you want to go there?
But they get to go and create and run their own kingdom. So I have some veterans at my table, so this is a pretty interesting challenge, but we're all relatively new to Pathfinder 2e, which makes it even more interesting. Lastly, Strength of 1000 is a level 1 to 20 adventure path with a tinge of Hogwarts in it, as players start as students and end up teachers in a magical institution. Hilarity ensues.
You're a wizard, Harry.
They're all solid choices. So I can't go into multiple systems and their best adventures in this video. I'll chat about that more when we get into specific games in other videos. So let's talk about homebrewing adventures. There is a lot more work that you'll need to figure out because you will need the smallest of the details of the land to the grand scope of the world, but really don't have to. We live in a world where technology instantly links us to anyone who wants to. We have digital maps of every street and a 24-hour news cycle that lets us know what's going on whenever we want. Your world does not. Even in a fantasy setting with spells like sending and divination spells like scrying, no one can have that level of detail that we do in our modern world.
I used a scrying spell.
What really would a level 1 PC just starting in the world know of the large things going on? Nothing, really. They would know of their area around them and the lords of the land, that sort of stuff. But if they're not of a specific species, they're likely not to know much more than something like, we know dwarves live up in those mountains. And that's likely it. Sure, the players can write up stuff in their backstories that helps flesh that out a little bit, but in reality, they're just a young character and fresh to the world that you're creating. When you write your own adventure, you do not need to detail the faraway lands until you really need to. Start small and work around the adventures. You can make maps if you want or not. Again, it will be dictated by your time and ambition. Many of us, myself included, really have grand designs for a world. We start to write it up and then just realize how big we've made it, and there will be no way that they'll be able to see all these areas and explore them. So it can really just be a waste. But it is also a good writing experience, so do what you think is best for you. I will always suggest starting small and working your way around as you need to. If you have players sticking to a specific area, then write a lot of details on that. Your players can also get involved as well by having them come up and fill in with things like their hometown, notable NPCs within it, etc. It can be a great way for your players to get immersed in your world and take some ownership within it. This is also a great way to brainstorm some adventure ideas as your players come up with NPCs, monsters, and more. World building is something on a completely different scale. Adventures are focused on a very specific goal and area, where world building really changes the scope of your work. I go into more detail in my world building video, and I will link it down below. If you have the time, a homebrew world can feel way more intimate and personal as it's something you and your table can create and bring to life. No two homebrew worlds will be the same. Some themes will echo across the worlds created, but it can be very special to you and your group. It is a ton of work, but I do think that the rewarding feeling of creating something truly unique and your own far outweighs some of the drawbacks. But I digress. When you're writing a homebrew adventure, you have way more control over the narrative than in a published adventure. Your mod can be dialed in specifically for your players and their characters. Using their backstories, you can really immerse your group in the world by making it much more personal, using stuff they created in their characters' lives, such as names and locations. With a published adventure, most of the time, the player's backstory, let's face it, is irrelevant. What led them on this adventure will likely have no real meaning on how the pre-made adventure runs or unfolds unless you do a lot of work to modify the adventure to suit the party. Again, this boils down to how much time you can take to do it. Sure, it's great for role play within the party, but to the adventure itself, it usually holds no sway. So one last thing to consider is if you're using a VTT or not. Using a VTT comes with a host of new issues, such as uploading maps, the adventures, and all the stories, and the parts that go into what you want to share with your group. It is not an impossible task, but just adds a bit more time to your game planning. So take that as you may. As always, thanks for spending your time with me in your quest to become a better games master. If you're interested in more content, please like and subscribe below and click the bell for notifications on new videos. Let me know down below in the comments whether you prefer a homebrew adventure or a pre-made adventure and why. Again, please remember there is no right or wrong answer here. In the meantime, and in between time, that's it. Another Mythic episode. Thanks for watching, and may all your games be full of myth, mirth, and magic.